The security camera showed my wife handing my brother the vial with my name on it, the vial that was supposed to give us the child we'd prayed for. But the question that haunted me wasn't just why. It was, how long have they been planning to erase me from my own family? I should start at the beginning. 3 weeks before I saw that footage, Catherine and I sat in the waiting room at Riverside Reproductive Center, her hand in mine, both of us pretending the tension wasn't there. We'd been trying for 3 years. 3 years of negative tests, failed procedures, sympathetic looks from doctors who kept saying, sometimes it just takes time. But time had run out. I was 38 years old, infertile from a car accident 5 years ago, and this, my frozen sperm samples from before the crash, was our last shot. Mr. and Mrs. Sullivan? The nurse smiled at us, clipboard in hand. Dr. Foster is ready for you. Catherine squeezed my hand. This is it, Thomas. I can feel it. I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to believe her. Dr. Andrew Foster had been our fertility specialist for 18 months. He was methodical, careful, the kind of doctor who triple-checked everything. That's what I liked about him. That's what saved me. Everything looks good, Dr. Foster said, reviewing our intake forms. Thomas, your frozen samples are in excellent condition. We retrieved them from storage yesterday for the prep work. Catherine, your hormone levels are exactly where we need them. I'm optimistic. Catherine leaned forward. When can we start? Today, actually. Thomas, I'll need you to review and sign the consent forms, and then we'll schedule the procedure for next week. He slid a stack of papers across his desk. Standard stuff. Liability waivers, acknowledgement of risks, authorization to use my stored genetic material. I signed my name. Thomas Michael Sullivan. My father's name was on the line above mine from when I'd first stored the samples 5 years ago, back when I was 33, and the accident had just happened, and the doctors told me I might never have biological children otherwise. My father, Charles Sullivan, patriarch of Sullivan Industries, a man who'd built a $50 million manufacturing company from nothing, had driven me to the clinic that day. Legacy matters, son, he'd said. Don't let an accident take that from you. Dr. Foster collected the forms, then paused. His finger traced something on the signature line. It was quick, maybe half a second, but I caught it. Dr. Foster, I said. He looked up and I saw something in his eyes, concern, confusion. Is everything okay? Catherine asked, her voice tight. Yes, of course. But he didn't sound sure. Mr. Sullivan, I need to speak with you alone for a moment. It's just a routine follow-up about the storage protocols. Mrs. Sullivan, would you mind waiting in the lobby? This will only take 5 minutes. Catherine's hand went rigid in mine. Alone? Why can't I? It's standard procedure for the sample donor to review certain technical details. Dr. Foster's tone was professional but firm. I promise it won't take long. She stood slowly, grabbing her purse. Fine, I'll be outside. The door clicked shut behind her. The room felt smaller suddenly. Dr. Foster turned his computer screen toward me. Mr. Sullivan, when did you last access your stored samples? Never. I stored them 5 years ago after the accident, and they've been here ever since. Why? He pulled up a log, rows of dates, times, badge numbers. We run quarterly audits on our cryogenic storage facility. It's a liability issue. Every time someone enters the storage vault, their badge is logged, time-stamped, cross-referenced with authorized personnel. Okay. 3 weeks ago, on a Sunday, someone accessed the vault. Sundays were closed. The clinic is locked. Only senior staff have after-hours access, and only for emergencies. My pulse kicked up. Who accessed it? Dr. Foster highlighted a line on the screen. The badge belongs to our maintenance contractor, except... He trailed off, pulling up another window. We don't have a maintenance contractor named Marcus Sullivan. The floor dropped out from under me. Marcus, my brother. Marcus, who was supposed to be my best man at my wedding 4 years ago. Marcus, who worked at Sullivan Industries as VP of sales because I'd given him the position out of loyalty, not merit. Marcus, who'd borrowed money from me more times than I could count and always paid it back late. Marcus, who had a badge to this clinic. There must be some mistake, I said, but my voice sounded hollow. My brother wouldn't, why would he even... Mr. Sullivan, I need to show you something else. Dr. Foster clicked through several screens, then pulled up security footage. 4 camera angles, hallway, storage room, lobby, parking lot. We keep footage for 60 days. This is from that Sunday. 3 weeks ago, 3:47 p.m. He hit play. The hallway camera showed a man in a maintenance uniform, navy blue coveralls, work boots, badge clipped to his chest. He walked with purpose, head down, toward the storage vault door. He swiped the badge. The door opened. Dr. Foster switched to the storage room camera. The man stepped inside, moved directly to a specific cryogenic drawer. My drawer, I realized with growing horror, and opened it. He removed a vial, held it up to the light. Then he reached into his pocket and pulled out another vial. He switched them, carefully, methodically. He placed the new vial in my slot, put the original vial in his pocket, and closed the drawer. The man turned towards the camera for just a second. Just 1 second. It was Marcus. No, I whispered. Dr. Foster switched to the lobby camera. The timestamp read 3:47 p.m., the same moment Marcus was inside the vault. A woman sat in the waiting area. Dark hair, designer handbag, phone in hand. She wasn't texting. She was holding the phone up, angled toward the storage room door. She was watching, keeping lookout. Catherine, my wife, keeping watch while my brother stole my genetic material. The parking lot camera showed them leaving together 10 minutes later. Marcus pulled off the coveralls in the back seat of Catherine's car. They didn't kiss, didn't touch. They just drove away. I couldn't breathe. The room tilted. Mr. Sullivan, I don't know what's happening here, but this is a serious violation of clinic protocol and possibly a criminal act. I need to ask you directly. Did you authorize your brother to access your samples? No. The word came out strangled. I didn't even know he had a badge. How did he get a badge? That's what I'm trying to determine. The badge is registered to a contractor company that doesn't exist. It's a fake. My hands were shaking. I gripped the edge of the desk. The vial he took, where is it now? I don't know. He left with it, but the vial he left behind, the one with your name on it, I had our lab run a preliminary check this morning when I noticed the discrepancy. Dr. Foster pulled out a printout. Mr. Sullivan, the DNA in that sample doesn't match your genetic profile from our records. Then whose is it? He met my eyes. I don't have confirmation yet, but based on what we're seeing here, I'd guess it belongs to your brother. The world stopped. Catherine wanted to get pregnant with Marcus's child, using my name, my insurance, my legacy, my father's company, the inheritance, the will, everything. It all hinged on having an heir. Dad had made that clear 6 months ago when his doctor diagnosed him with stage 3 pancreatic cancer. When you have a son, Thomas, everything changes. The company goes to you unconditionally. That's how it works in this family. Marcus knew that. Marcus, who'd always been in my shadow. Marcus, who'd failed at every business venture he'd tried outside the family company. Marcus, who had gambling debts I didn't even know about yet. And Catherine, who'd married me 4 years ago when Sullivan Industries was riding high, when my father was healthy, when I was the golden child set to inherit everything. They wanted my life, my legacy, my father's approval. They just didn't want me in it. Mr. Sullivan, I need to report this to the authorities. Dr. Foster said gently. This is theft of biological material, fraud, possibly conspiracy. I need to go home. I stood, legs unsteady. I need to talk to my wife. I don't think that's... I need to see her face when I ask her. My voice cracked. I need to know if she'll lie to me. Dr. Foster handed me a USB drive. This has copies of all the footage, the access logs, the DNA comparison report. Take it. And Mr. Sullivan, be careful. People who plan something like this, they're not done yet. I drove home in silence. 43 minutes through afternoon traffic, the USB drive burning a hole in my jacket pocket. I didn't turn on the radio, didn't call anyone. I just drove, my mind replaying the footage over and over. Catherine's face in the lobby, calm, focused, watching the door like she'd done this before. Marcus switching the vials, no hesitation, practiced. How long had they been planning this? The house was empty when I got home. Catherine's car was in the driveway, but she wasn't inside. I found her in the backyard, sitting on the patio with a glass of wine, scrolling through her phone. She looked up when I stepped outside. Hey, how'd the rest of the appointment go? Dr. Foster seemed weird about that private consultation thing. I pulled out my phone, opened the video file Dr. Foster had sent, hit play. What's that? She asked, setting down her wine glass. I turned the screen toward her, showed her the lobby footage, her face in high definition, phone raised, watching the storage room door, the color drained from her cheeks. Thomas, Don't. My voice was ice. Don't lie to me. Not now. I've seen everything, the footage, the badge logs, the DNA report. I know Marcus switched my samples. I know you were the lookout. I know the sample in that clinic right now is his, not mine. She stood slowly, hands raised like I was a wild animal. You're being paranoid. That video doesn't show... It shows everything, Catherine. 4 cameras, timestamps, your face, his face, the fake badge, the vial swap. I stepped closer. The only thing I don't know is why. So tell me why my wife and my brother conspired to steal my genetic material and replace it with his. Her jaw tightened. The mask slipped. For just a second, I saw the real Catherine, the one who'd been planning this behind my back. You want to know the truth? Her voice turned cold, sharp as glass. Fine, but you're not going to like what comes next. I didn't sleep that night. Catherine locked herself in the guest room after our confrontation went nowhere. She'd refused to explain, just kept saying I was paranoid and seeing things that weren't there, even when I played the footage 3 more times. Around 2 a.m., I heard her on the phone with someone, her voice low and urgent. I pressed my ear to the door, but could only catch fragments. Wait, told you he'd find out. We need to move faster. The will. At dawn, I drove back to Riverside Reproductive Center with the original storage receipt from 5 years ago. The paper was yellowed, folded in my wallet behind my insurance card all this time. I'd never thought I'd need it, never imagined I'd have to prove my own genetic material belonged to me. Dr. Foster met me in his office, dark circles under his eyes. I didn't sleep either, he admitted. I kept thinking about that footage, about what they were planning. I laid the receipt on his desk. This is from when I stored the samples. May 17th, 2019, 5 years ago. Serial number R3104, 2019. He pulled up the current inventory on his computer, clicked through to my account. The vial currently in storage under your name is serial number R4782, 2019. Not even close. No, not even close. He picked up his phone. I'm calling our lab director. We need to verify whose DNA is actually in that vial. The lab director, a woman named Dr. Stephanie Park, arrived 20 minutes later with a printout. She laid it between us like evidence at a crime scene. The sample in storage under Thomas Sullivan's name contains DNA that does not match Thomas Sullivan's genetic profile from our records, she said. However, it does match a profile in our system from a routine health screening we ran 18 months ago. Whose? I asked, though I already knew. Marcus Sullivan. He came in for a standard fertility consultation, said he was considering future family planning. We ran blood work, took a DNA sample for our files. It's a match. There it was, confirmation. My brother had planned this 18 months ago. 18 months of deception. Of looking me in the eye at Sunday dinners, at company meetings, at Dad's chemotherapy appointments, all while plotting to steal my inheritance through a child that would carry his DNA but my name. Dr. Foster, I said slowly, when Catherine and I came in yesterday, you said you'd already retrieved my sample for prep work. Where is that sample now? His face went pale. It's in the prep lab. We were going to use it for the procedure next week. Destroy it now. I don't want Marcus's DNA anywhere near my wife. Dr. Park nodded. I'll take care of it personally. And I need everything documented, I continued. Every log, every timestamp, every frame of footage, every DNA report. I need it all in writing, signed, sealed, admissible in court. Dr. Foster leaned forward. You're pressing charges. I don't know yet, but I need to understand the full scope of what they've done before I decide what comes next. I pulled out my phone, scrolled to my contact list. And I need to know if this goes deeper than a stolen sperm sample. I called my lawyer first, then my accountant, then a private investigator my father had used once to vet a business partner. By noon, I had 3 meetings scheduled and a manila envelope full of security footage, DNA reports, and access logs that proved my wife and brother had conspired to commit fraud. But I still didn't know the answer to the question that was eating me alive. How long have they been planning to erase me from my own family? The technician's voice cracked over the speakerphone, pulling me back to the moment. Mr. Sullivan, I've cross-referenced every record we have. That serial number, R4782-2019, doesn't belong to your original sample. It was logged into our system 3 weeks ago under a maintenance access code. The code was flagged by our audit software because it wasn't linked to any authorized work order. What does that mean? I asked, though the dread in my gut already knew the answer. It means whoever accessed your storage vault that Sunday created a fake maintenance record to cover their tracks. They knew enough about our system to forge credentials, bypass security, and manipulate our inventory database. Dr. Foster exhaled slowly. This wasn't impulsive. This was planned, carefully. Yeah. I stared at the printout, at the serial number that wasn't mine, at the evidence of 18 months of betrayal. And I need to find out what else they've been planning. The private investigator's name was Raymond Cole. He came recommended by my father's business attorney, the kind of man who found things people didn't want found. We met at a coffee shop 3 blocks from my office, far enough that no one from Sullivan Industries would see us. Raymond slid a folder across the table. He was in his 50s, gray at the temples, with the kind of face that had seen too much to be surprised by anything. I've been doing this 23 years, he said. Corporate espionage, insurance fraud, infidelity cases. This one's different. Different how? Because it's not just about the affair. It's about the money. And when family money's involved, people do things that would shock you. He opened the folder. I started with financial records. Your wife, Catherine, maiden name Porter, married you 4 years ago. At the time, she was working as an executive assistant at Sullivan Industries, making $62,000 a year. You were pulling in $500,000 as COO, set to become CEO when your father retired. I know all this. Bear with me. 3 months after your wedding, Catherine opened a private investment account. Small deposits at first, $500 here, $1,000 there, nothing unusual. But 18 months ago, the deposits got bigger. $10,000, $15,000, $20,000. Always cash, always under the reporting threshold. My stomach tightened. Where was she getting that kind of cash? That's where it gets interesting. Raymond pulled out bank statements. Your brother Marcus has been hemorrhaging money for 2 years. Gambling debts mostly. Online poker, sports betting, a few trips to Atlantic City that went sideways. He owes roughly $580,000 to some very unpleasant people. $580,000. I had no idea. Marcus had borrowed money from me dozens of times over the years, $5,000 here, $10,000 there, but he always said it was for business investments, expansion plans, opportunities that needed quick capital. 3 months before Catherine started making those cash deposits, Raymond continued, Marcus took out a personal loan for $50,000, told the bank it was for home renovations, but there's no record of any work being done on his condo. The money vanished into cash withdrawals over 6 weeks. He was paying off gambling debts. Yeah. And when that ran out, he started pulling money from somewhere else. Raymond slid over another document. This is where your forensic accountant, Jennifer Hayes, comes in. She found something in your family's corporate structure. Your father set up a trust for you and Marcus when you were kids. $2 million each, accessible at age 40 or upon marriage with a child. You haven't accessed yours. Marcus can't access his because he's divorced, and his ex-wife has custody of their son. So he has $2 million sitting in a trust he can't touch. Correct. But if he had a child, a legitimate heir in your father's eyes, that trust opens up. $2 million to pay off his debts and start over. Raymond leaned back. Now, here's where it gets darker. 6 months ago, your wife purchased a life insurance policy on you. $2 million. She's the sole beneficiary. The coffee in my stomach turned to acid. What? He slid the policy across the table. It was thick, premium bond paper, the kind used for important documents. My signature was on the last page, except it wasn't my signature. The handwriting was close, but the T in Thomas trembled. I never trembled when I signed my name. She forged this. Yeah, and she did a decent job, good enough that the insurance company accepted it, but Jennifer Hayes had a handwriting expert compare it to your actual signature from Sullivan Industries contracts. It's a forgery, which means this policy is fraudulent. But here's the thing, Thomas. She purchased it the same week your father's oncologist gave him 6 months to live. My hands went cold. She was planning to kill me. Or have someone else do it. Raymond pulled out another document, which brings me to the accident 5 years ago, the one that left you infertile. I remembered it in flashes. Driving home from the office late at night, the roads slick with October rain, the brake pedal going soft under my foot, the car accelerating instead of slowing, the guardrail coming up fast, the impact, the hospital, the doctors telling me I'd been lucky to survive, unlucky in other ways. The police report said it was brake failure due to wear and tear. I said slowly, mechanical failure, no foul play. That's what the report said. But I pulled the original mechanic's notes from the impound lot. He opened a faded manila folder, pulled out a photo. This is your brake line from 5 years ago. The photo was grainy, yellowed at the edges, but clear enough. The brake line had been severed, not frayed from wear, but cut clean through. Someone had taken a blade to it. The mechanic who examined the car noted it in his report. Raymond said, pointing to handwritten notes in the margin. Suspicious cut. Not consistent with wear. Possible tampering. Reported to shop manager. No follow-up. Someone tried to cover this up. Yeah, and I found out who had access to your car the day before the accident. He pulled out a rental agreement. Your brother Marcus, he borrowed your car that afternoon. Said his was in the shop. You gave him the keys, he returned the car that evening, and the next day you crashed. The room spun. Marcus had cut my brake line 5 years ago. He'd tried to kill me 5 years ago, long before Catherine, before the sperm sample, before any of this. Why would he? Because 5 years ago, your father had just announced he was stepping back from day-to-day operations. You were being groomed to take over as CEO. Marcus was VP of sales, but everyone knew he wasn't leadership material. The company was going to be yours. And Marcus, Raymond tapped the photo of the brake line. Decided he'd rather it be his. But I survived. And the crash left me infertile, which meant I couldn't have heirs, which meant Marcus might still have a shot at the inheritance if you died before producing an heir. Raymond closed the folder. He tried to kill you once and failed, but he didn't give up. He just changed tactics. Instead of killing you outright, he decided to steal your genetic legacy, get your wife pregnant with his child, have that child inherit everything, and then, if the life insurance policy is any indication, finish what he started 5 years ago. I couldn't breathe. My brother had been planning my death for 5 years. 5 years of Sunday dinners, Christmas mornings, corporate retreats, Father's Day celebrations, hospital waiting rooms during Dad's chemo, all while carrying the secret that he'd tried to murder me and was planning to try again. "There's one more thing," Raymond said quietly. He pulled out a printout of email messages. "Jennifer Hayes got a warrant to search Catherine's computer. These are encrypted messages between her and Marcus. They thought they'd erased them, but nothing's ever really erased." I read the first email. It was from Catherine to Marcus, dated 14 months ago. "Once the baby is born and Charles changes the will, we can finally be together. Thomas will have nothing. No heir, no company, no legacy, just like he deserves." Marcus's response: "We need to be patient. The sample swap buys us time. Once you're pregnant, we wait until the baby's born and the trust money transfers. Then we trigger the insurance policy. Make it look like an accident, grief, depression, whatever. You'll be the grieving widow with a newborn. No one will suspect anything." Another email from 6 months ago: "Charles is getting worse. We need to move faster. The will changes once Thomas has an heir. We have maybe 6 months before Charles dies and everything locks. If we don't move now, Thomas inherits everything by default and we lose our window." I set the emails down. My hands were shaking so hard the papers rattled. They were going to kill me, have Catherine play the grieving widow, raise Marcus's child as mine, split the inheritance and the insurance payout. "Yeah." Raymond's voice was gentle. "I'm sorry, Thomas, but you needed to know the full scope." "How long?" My voice cracked. "How long has this been happening?" The affair started 18 months ago based on hotel receipts, phone records, and security footage from Marcus's condo building. The conspiracy to swap the sperm samples started around the same time, but the will to hurt you, to take what's yours, that started 5 years ago when Marcus cut your brake line. 5 years. Half a decade of betrayal. Of my brother looking me in the eye and smiling. Of my wife kissing me goodnight and saying she loved me. Of both of them sitting at my father's bedside, pretending to grieve alongside me while secretly plotting to erase me from my own family. If you've ever questioned whether people you love are capable of this, comment, "I've been there." If you've ever had your reality shattered by someone you trusted completely, you're not alone in this. "What do I do now?" I asked, but I already knew the answer. You confront them with evidence they can't deny. You protect yourself legally, and you decide whether you want justice through the courts or just want to walk away. Raymond paused. "But Thomas, people who plan something this elaborate over this many years, they don't stop. They escalate. So whatever you do it fast." I drove to Sullivan Industries straight from the coffee shop. It was Wednesday afternoon, 2 p.m., and Marcus would be in his office. He had a standing call with the West Coast sales team at 2:30. I'd scheduled it myself 6 months ago. I found him at his desk, feet propped up, laughing into his phone. He waved when he saw me through the glass wall, gestured for me to wait. I stood in the doorway, the folder from Raymond Cole burning in my hands. He finished his call, hung up with a smile. "Hey, Tommy, what's up? You look like hell." Tommy. He'd called me Tommy since we were kids. When I broke my arm falling out of a tree at age 9, Marcus had signed my cast first. To Tommy, the bravest brother ever. When I got my acceptance letter to Harvard Business School, Marcus had taken me out for drinks. Tommy Sullivan, future CEO. I always knew you'd make it. When I married Catherine, Marcus gave the best man toast. To Tommy, my brother, my best friend, my hero. All lies. Every single one. I need to talk to you, I said. My voice was steady, cold. His smile faded. Okay, what's going on? I closed the door, locked it, drew the blinds. Thomas, you're scaring me. I threw the folder on his desk. Photos of the brake line spilled out. The mechanic's notes, the rental agreement with Marcus's signature, the security footage, stills from the fertility clinic, the emails. Marcus went pale. When did you decide to kill me? I asked quietly. Was it 5 years ago when you cut my brake line? Or was it before that? Was it when Dad announced I'd be CEO? When I got promoted over you? When I married the girl you wanted? Thomas, I don't know what you're talking about. Don't. My voice cut like glass. Don't lie to me. Not now. I've seen everything. The brake line, the footage from the clinic, the emails between you and Catherine, the life insurance policy. I know you tried to kill me 5 years ago, and I know you're planning to try again. He stared at the photos, jaw working. Then something shifted in his face. The mask cracked, and underneath was something I'd never seen before. Pure, seething resentment. You really want to know when? He laughed, bitter, hollow. I'll tell you. I decided the day Dad said you'd be CEO. You were 28 years old, Tommy. 28. I was 24, working my ass off in sales, bringing in clients, closing deals. But Dad looked at you and saw the future. He looked at me and saw a disappointment. So you tried to kill me. I tried to scare you. He stood, pacing. I thought if you had a serious accident, you'd step back. You'd realize the job was too stressful, too dangerous. You'd let me have a shot. But you didn't. You survived. You came back stronger, and Dad loved you more for it. And Catherine? His jaw tightened. Catherine saw the same thing I did. You got everything handed to you. The company, the money, the legacy. I had to fight for scraps. So yeah, we decided to take what should have been mine from the start. A child with my DNA, your name, Dad's inheritance. It was perfect. You'd never know. And by the time you figured it out, we'd have everything. You were going to kill me and steal my child. It's not your child. He slammed his hand on the desk. It's my DNA, my genetics, my legacy. You don't get to have it all, Thomas. You don't get the company and the girl and the perfect life while I'm drowning in debt. There it was. The truth. Raw and ugly. You really want to know why? Marcus leaned across the desk, his face twisted. Because Dad always loved you more, and I got tired of waiting for my turn. The office door rattled. Security was outside, responding to the shouting. I unlocked it, stepped back. You're fired, I said quietly. Effective immediately. Security will escort you out. If you come near me, near Catherine, near this company, or near my father, I'll have you arrested for attempted murder and conspiracy to commit fraud. Do you understand? Marcus's face went white. You can't fire me. I'm your brother. No. I picked up his company ID from his desk, handed it to security. You stopped being my brother the day you cut my brake line. Now you're just a criminal who hasn't been charged yet. Security escorted him out. He didn't fight, didn't argue, just walked through the office with everyone watching, past the desk photos of us as boys, past the framed photo of our father's company anniversary where Marcus's arm was around my shoulder and we were both smiling. I watched him go, and I felt nothing. Have you ever had to fire someone you loved? React with if you understand what it means to choose justice over family. I didn't go home that night, couldn't face Catherine yet. Instead, I went to the one place that felt safe, my father's estate. Charles Sullivan lived in the same house he'd built 40 years ago when Sullivan Industries was just a dream and a warehouse lease. 5 acres in Connecticut, oak trees older than me, a sprawling colonial that smelled like wood polish, and my mother's lavender perfume, even though she'd been gone 15 years. Maria, the housekeeper, let me in. "Mr. Thomas, your father's in the study. He's having a good day." A good day meant the chemo nausea had eased enough for him to sit upright and read. Bad days meant morphine and sleep and prayers that he'd wake up. I found Dad in his leather chair, oxygen tube in his nose, a blanket over his lap despite the June heat. He looked up when I entered, and his face, gaunt now, hollowed by illness, brightened. "Thomas, I wasn't expecting you tonight." "Hi, Dad." I sat across from him in the chair I'd sat in 1,000 times. Homework after school, college acceptance letters, business proposals, my wedding announcement. "I need to talk to you about something." "Catherine's pregnant." It wasn't a question. He smiled, hopeful. "When did you find out?" My throat closed. "No, Dad, she's not, and she won't be. Not with me." His smile faded. "What do you mean?" I couldn't tell him. Not yet. Not about Marcus, not about the brake line, not about the conspiracy that had his youngest son trying to murder his oldest for inheritance money. Not when he had 6 months left, and every day was a battle against pain and exhaustion. But I couldn't lie either. "Catherine and I are having problems," I said carefully. "Serious problems. I don't think we're going to have children together." Dad's face fell. He'd been holding on for this, for the promise of a grandchild, for the continuation of the Sullivan name, for the legacy he'd built to matter beyond his own life. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I'm sorry this is happening." "It's not your fault, Dad." "But I put so much pressure on you, on both of you boys." He looked toward the window where the oak trees swayed in evening wind. The will, the trust funds, the inheritance requirements. "I thought I was building something for you. I didn't realize I was building a cage." I followed his gaze. On the wall behind him hung a photo of me and Marcus at age 8, both of us laughing, gap-toothed, and sunburned from a day at the lake. Our mother had taken that photo 3 months before she died. She'd written on the back, "Brothers forever." I stood, walked to the photo, lifted it off the wall. The frame was dusty. I opened it carefully, removed the picture, looked at Marcus's 8-year-old face, innocent, happy, loved. That boy was gone. Maybe he'd never really existed. I tore the photo in half. Dad gasped. "Thomas!" "He's not my brother anymore." My voice cracked. "He stopped being my brother a long time ago. I just didn't know it." "What happened?" I put the torn halves in my pocket. "I can't tell you yet. But when this is over, when I have all the evidence I need, I'll tell you everything. And I need you to know that whatever you hear, whatever happens, none of this is your fault. You built something beautiful, Dad. Some people just can't appreciate beauty without trying to destroy it." I left before he could ask more questions. Maria met me in the hallway, concern written across her face. "Mr. Thomas, there's a child here to see you, little Ethan. He said his father dropped him off for his weekend visit, but he wanted to see Uncle Thomas first." Ethan, Marcus's 6-year-old son from his first marriage, the boy I'd promised to always be there for, even after Marcus and his ex-wife divorced 3 years ago. Every other weekend, Ethan stayed with me and Catherine. We'd take him to the science museum, to baseball games, to dinner at the places he loved. He called me Uncle Thomas. He trusted me, and now I had to figure out how to protect him from the truth about his father. I found Ethan in the living room, sitting on the floor with a stack of construction paper and crayons. He looked up when I walked in, his face lighting up. "Uncle Thomas, look what I drew!" He held up the paper. It was a crayon drawing, primary colors, stick figures, a child's attempt at capturing his world. 2 figures stood together, one tall with blue shirt, one smaller with red dress. Behind them was a couch. In the corner, in Ethan's shaky 6-year-old handwriting, Daddy and Aunt Katie at home. He'd misspelled aunt. My heart stopped. That's your dad? And Aunt Katie? I asked slowly. Yeah. I drew this at Daddy's house last week. Aunt Katie comes over a lot now. They watch movies on the couch, and sometimes she sleeps over. Daddy says she's his special friend. Ethan beamed, proud of his artwork. Do you like it? The paper trembled in my hands. The construction paper was wrinkled. Ethan had carried it in his backpack, careful not to crease it too much. The crayon wax had smudged from handling, but the image was clear. Marcus and Catherine together, at his home, while I'd been at the office, at the clinic, at my father's bedside. If you've ever had to grieve someone who's still alive, you know this pain. Drop a below if you understand what it means to lose someone to their own choices. Uncle Thomas? Ethan's voice was small now, uncertain. Are you crying? Did I do something bad? I wiped my eyes quickly. No, buddy, you didn't do anything wrong. This is a beautiful drawing. Are you and Daddy still best friends? The question shattered something inside me. How do you tell a 6-year-old that his father tried to kill you? That the man he looks up to is a liar and a thief and a would-be murderer? You don't. You protect the child. Always. Your daddy and I are having some grown-up problems, I said carefully, kneeling down to his level. But that has nothing to do with you, okay? You're still my buddy. That never changes. Promise? Promise. He hugged me, small arms tight around my neck. Over his shoulder, I saw Maria in the doorway, tears in her eyes. She'd been with our family since I was Ethan's age. She knew. She'd seen Marcus and Catherine together, seen the lies, stayed silent out of loyalty to the family. Maria, I said quietly, please call Marcus. Tell him I'm keeping Ethan tonight. And call Catherine. Tell her not to come home. She nodded, understanding. That night I lay in my childhood bedroom with Ethan asleep in the guest room down the hall. The torn photo of Marcus and me was still in my pocket. I pulled it out, looked at our 8-year-old faces one last time. Brothers forever, my mother had written. But forever had ended the day Marcus cut my brake line. I'd just been too blind to see it. The next morning, my lawyer called. Catherine filed for divorce. She's claiming you're emotionally abusive, controlling, that you've been monitoring her movements and making false accusations. She's asking for half of everything plus spousal support. Let her ask. My voice was flat. We have evidence of fraud, conspiracy, and adultery. She won't get a penny. There's something else. Your father's oncologist called me. Charles's prognosis has changed. He has roughly 6 months, maybe less. He's asking about changing his will. 6 months. Marcus and Catherine's window was closing. They'd know that by now. They'd know that if I survived the next 6 months without them successfully completing their plan, the will would lock. The inheritance would be mine. Their conspiracy would be worthless, which meant they were about to get desperate. Dr. Patterson, Dad's oncologist, confirmed it when I met him at the hospital that afternoon. Your father wants to see a grandchild before he goes, the doctor said gently. That's what's keeping him fighting, the hope of legacy. How much time does he actually have? 6 months is optimistic, realistically. 4, maybe 3 if the cancer spreads faster than we expect. How could I tell Dad that the grandchild we'd planned was part of a lie, that his youngest son had tried to kill his oldest son for inheritance money, that everything he'd built, the company, the trust funds, the legacy, had created a monster? I couldn't. Not yet. Not until I had every piece of evidence documented, every legal protection in place, every move calculated. Because Raymond Cole was right. People who plan something this elaborate don't stop. They escalate. And I needed to be ready for whatever came next. The district attorney's office was on the 7th floor of the courthouse, all glass windows and harsh fluorescent lights. DA Rachel Mendez was in her 40s, sharp-featured, with the kind of presence that made you sit up straighter. She'd prosecuted white-collar crime for 15 years. This case, she told me, was personal. My sister went through IVF, she said, spreading the evidence across her conference table. 3 years of failed attempts before they finally had a baby. If someone had tampered with their samples, stolen their chance at biological children, she looked up at me. This isn't just fraud, Mr. Sullivan. This is a violation of bodily autonomy. It's theft of genetic material. And combined with the attempted murder evidence, we're looking at serious prison time. I sat across from her, Jennifer Hayes on my left, Raymond Cole on my right. The evidence was compiled in 3 thick binders. Security footage, badge logs, DNA reports, financial records, email transcripts, the break line analysis, the forged life insurance policy, hotel receipts spanning 18 months. Walk me through the timeline one more time, Rachel said, pen poised over her legal pad. 5 years ago, my brother Marcus cut my brake line. I crashed. The accident left me infertile. The police ruled it mechanical failure, but the original mechanic noted suspicious tampering in his report. No one followed up. She made a note. And Marcus's motive? I was being promoted to CEO of our family company. He wanted the position. Thought if I was out of the picture, he'd get it. But you survived. Yeah. And 18 months ago, Marcus and my wife Catherine began an affair. They discovered that my father, who has terminal cancer, planned to change his will once I had an heir. The company, the trust funds, everything would go to me conditionally if I produced a child. So they conspired to steal my frozen sperm samples, replace them with Marcus's, get Catherine pregnant with his child but my name, and wait for the inheritance to transfer. And then I slid the life insurance policy across the table. Then Catherine was supposed to trigger this. $2 million forged signature, purchased 6 months ago when my father's prognosis became terminal. The plan was to make my death look like an accident or suicide, grief, depression, whatever would be believable, collect the insurance money and the inheritance, and split everything while raising Marcus's child as mine. Rachel studied the policy, her jaw tight. This is premeditated conspiracy to commit murder, multiple felonies. Mr. Sullivan, are you prepared to testify? To have your family's private matters become public record? My father deserves to know the truth. And if I don't stop them, they'll try again. Maybe not with me, maybe with someone else. But people who plan something this elaborate over 5 years don't stop. She leaned back in her chair. Here's what we can charge them with. Marcus attempted murder in the first degree for the brake line, theft of biological material, conspiracy to commit fraud, conspiracy to commit murder for the insurance scheme. Catherine, conspiracy to commit fraud, accessory after the fact to attempted murder, forgery, theft. If we can prove she knew about the brake line before the sperm swap, we can add conspiracy to the original attempted murder. What are we looking at for sentencing? If convicted on all counts, Marcus could get 20 to 30 years. Catherine could get 10 to 15. But here's the reality. They'll fight. They'll claim the brake line was an accident, the sperm swap was a mistake, the emails were taken out of context. Your brother will say he was trying to help you by providing samples. Your wife will play the victim. She'll say you were controlling, abusive, that she feared for her safety. I know. My voice was steady. But I have evidence they can't deny, and I'm ready for this. Rachel slid the charging papers across the table. Then let's make sure justice gets served. Mr. Sullivan, we're going after attempted murder. Are you ready for this? Should justice always be pursued, no matter the cost? Comment justice or mercy below. I want to know where you stand. I signed the papers without hesitation. The trial began 4 months later, October. The leaves outside the courthouse were the color of fire, and the air had that sharp autumn bite that reminded me of the night I'd crashed 5 years ago. The courtroom was packed. Media in the back rows, sketch artists along the side, my father's business associates scattered throughout. Charles was there too, thinner now, oxygen tank beside him, but awake and alert. He'd insisted on attending every day. I need to hear this, he'd told me. All of it. Catherine sat at the defense table in a pale blue dress, hair pulled back, makeup subtle. She looked like a grieving wife falsely accused. Her lawyer, a woman named Patricia Frost, had built her entire defense strategy around that image. The devoted wife, driven to desperation by her husband's controlling behavior, making a terrible mistake out of fear and confusion. Marcus sat at a separate defense table. His lawyer had argued for separate trials, but the judge denied it. The conspiracy charge linked them too tightly. The prosecution called Dr. Foster first. He took the stand in a gray suit, hands folded, voice steady. Rachel Mendez walked him through the discovery of the badge log discrepancy, the security footage, the serial number mismatch. Dr. Foster, in your professional opinion, was this an accident? A clerical error? No. The badge used to access our storage facility was fraudulent. The vial swap was deliberate. The DNA analysis confirmed the sample labeled as Thomas Sullivan's genetic material actually contained DNA belonging to Marcus Sullivan. And in the 18 months you've worked with Mr. and Mrs. Sullivan, did Catherine ever express concern about her husband's behavior? Did she ever indicate she felt unsafe or coerced? Never. They presented as a couple struggling with infertility, but hopeful and cooperative. Patricia Frost cross-examined, trying to paint the footage as inconclusive, the DNA results as potentially contaminated. But Dr. Foster held firm. The evidence was irrefutable. The prosecution called the forensic mechanic next, a man named Robert Chen, who'd analyzed the brake line photos from 5 years ago. Mr. Chen, you reviewed the brake line from Thomas Sullivan's accident. What did you find? The cut was clean, precise, made with a sharp blade at a 45-degree angle. This wasn't wear and tear. This was sabotage. Could this cut have happened naturally through normal vehicle operation? No, absolutely not. Someone deliberately severed that brake line with the intent to cause brake failure. Rachel displayed the photo on a large screen. The jury leaned forward. One woman covered her mouth. And in your expert opinion, could this cut have been accidental? Could someone have nicked the line while doing maintenance? No. The angle, the depth, the location, this required intent. This was an attempt to cause a crash. Marcus's lawyer tried to argue that the evidence was 5 years old, that the mechanic's original notes were inconclusive, that there was no direct proof Marcus had touched the brake line, but the rental agreement was there, Marcus's signature, the date, the timeline matching perfectly. Then Catherine took the stand. She wore a simple black dress now, tissues in her hand, eyes red. Patricia Frost walked her through a carefully constructed narrative. Thomas had become increasingly controlling after his father's diagnosis, monitoring her phone, accusing her of affairs, demanding she get pregnant to secure his inheritance. I was terrified, Catherine said, voice breaking. He would check my location constantly, question where I'd been, who I'd talked to. I felt trapped. And the sperm sample swap. Can you explain what happened? I panicked. Thomas had become so obsessed with having a child, with pleasing his father, that I thought if I could just get pregnant, he'd calm down. Marcus offered to help. He said his sample was similar enough that no one would know. I know it was wrong, but I was desperate. Rachel Mendez stood for cross-examination. Her voice was ice. Mrs. Sullivan, you claim you were afraid of your husband, yet you purchased a $2 million life insurance policy on him without his knowledge, forging his signature. Can you explain that? Catherine's face paled. I didn't forge anything. Thomas must have signed it and forgotten. We have a handwriting analysis. The signature is forged. You committed insurance fraud. Rachel slid the policy across to the jury. And these encrypted emails between you and Marcus, the ones where you discuss waiting for the baby to be born so you can trigger the insurance policy and Thomas will have nothing. Were you afraid when you wrote these? I don't remember writing those. You don't remember writing, and I quote, "Once the baby is born and Charles changes the will, we can finally be together. Thomas will have nothing, no heir, no company, no legacy, just like he deserves." You don't remember that? Catherine's lawyer objected. The judge overruled. I was upset. You didn't mean to conspire with Marcus Sullivan to steal your husband's genetic material, get pregnant with his brother's child, inherit millions of dollars, and then collect on a forged life insurance policy? You didn't mean any of that. Objection! Badgering! Sustained. Ms. Mendez, rephrase. Rachel stepped closer to the witness stand. Mrs. Sullivan, did you love your husband? Silence. Did you ever love him? Catherine's mask cracked. Just for a second. And in that second, the jury saw the truth. No! The courtroom erupted. The judge called for order. Charles gasped beside me, his oxygen tank hissing. I reached for his hand. He gripped mine tight enough to hurt. Then Marcus took the stand. His lawyer had advised against it. I knew that from the pre-trial hearings, but Marcus insisted. He wanted to explain. He wanted the jury to understand why he'd done what he'd done. Rachel Mendez didn't waste time. Mr. Sullivan, did you cut your brother's brake line 5 years ago? Marcus's jaw worked. His lawyer half stood to object, but Marcus waved him off. Yes. The courtroom exploded. The judge banged his gavel. Media in the back scribbled frantically. You're admitting under oath that you attempted to murder your brother. I didn't think he'd crash. I wanted to scare him. I thought if he got scared enough, he'd step back from the company, let me have a chance. But he did crash. He was hospitalized. He lost his fertility. He nearly died. I know. Marcus's voice cracked. I know what I did, and I've regretted it every day since. Yet 18 months ago, you began an affair with his wife. You conspired to steal his frozen sperm samples. You planned to pass off your child as his, inherit his money, and based on the life insurance policy and these emails, you plan to kill him again. That doesn't sound like regret, Mr. Sullivan. I didn't plan to kill him again. That was Catherine's idea. Objection. Patricia Frost was on her feet. The defendant is attempting to shift blame. Overruled. The witness opened this line of questioning himself. Rachel circled back. Tell me about the life insurance policy. Whose idea was it? Catherine said we needed insurance, that if something happened to Thomas, we'd be protected. Protected? You mean financially secured after his death? Yes, but I didn't think she'd actually... You didn't think she'd actually trigger the policy you helped her forge. The policy that would pay out $2 million if Thomas died suspiciously within the first 2 years. Rachel pulled out the emails, read them aloud to the courtroom. Mr. Sullivan, you wrote, once you're pregnant, we wait until the baby's born and the trust money transfers. Then we trigger the insurance policy, make it look like an accident. You wrote that. How is that not planning murder? Marcus stared at the jury, then at me. His eyes were hollow. Because I never really believed we'd go through with it, he whispered. I thought we'd just get the money and leave, start over. I didn't think... You didn't think you'd get caught. Silence. Mr. Sullivan, why did you do this? Why did you try to kill your brother, not once, but twice? Marcus looked at me again. His voice was barely audible. Because Dad always loved him more, and I got tired of waiting for my turn. The courtroom was silent. Even the sketch artists had stopped drawing. Rachel Mendez turned to the jury. No further questions. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. We waited in a private room. Me, Dad, Jennifer Hayes, Raymond Cole, Dr. Foster, who'd come to support me. No one spoke much. Dad held my hand like he had when I was a boy and afraid of thunderstorms. "Whatever happens," he said quietly, "you did the right thing. You protected yourself. You protected the truth." The bailiff called us back at 5:47 p.m. The jury filed in, faces solemn. The foreman stood. "In the case of the state versus Marcus Sullivan on the charge of attempted murder in the first degree, how do you find?" "Guilty." Dad's hand tightened on mine. "On the charge of conspiracy to commit fraud?" "Guilty." "On the charge of conspiracy to commit murder?" "Guilty." "On the charge of theft of biological material?" "Guilty." Marcus stood frozen. His lawyer touched his shoulder. He didn't move. "In the case of the state versus Catherine Sullivan, on the charge of conspiracy to commit fraud, how do you find?" "Guilty." "On the charge of accessory after the fact to attempted murder?" "Guilty." "On the charge of forgery?" "Guilty." "On the charge of conspiracy to commit murder?" "Guilty." Catherine screamed. The sound was raw, animal. Bailiffs moved toward her as she collapsed against the defense table. The judge banged his gavel. "Order. Order in this court." Marcus turned to look at me. His eyes were empty. "You won," he said, voice flat. "But you lost me." "No," I replied, loud enough for him to hear. "I lost you 5 years ago when you cut my brake line. This is just the paperwork. Justice doesn't always feel like victory. React with if you felt this." Sentencing came 2 weeks later. Marcus, 15 years for attempted murder, 5 years concurrent for conspiracy to commit fraud, 3 years concurrent for theft of biological material, 15 years in a state prison. He'd be 53 when he got out. If he got out. Catherine, 7 years for conspiracy to commit fraud, 5 years concurrent for accessory to attempted murder, 1 year concurrent for forgery and theft. 7 years. She'd be 43 when she was released. Both were ordered to pay restitution. The civil trial awarded me $4.8 million in damages, money I'd never see because they had nothing left. Marcus's gambling debts had consumed everything. Catherine's family had disowned her. Her mother had testified against her at trial, sobbing through her statement about not recognizing the woman my daughter became. The day of sentencing, as bailiffs led them away in handcuffs, Catherine looked back at me one last time. "I hope you're happy," she spat. I wasn't happy. I was empty, but I was safe. And that was enough. Dad lasted 8 months after the trial. Long enough to change his will, to remove Marcus's name from every Sullivan document, to transfer full control of the company to me unconditionally. Long enough to meet David Chen, my mentor Robert's son, and tell him, "You're more a Sullivan than my own son ever was." He died on a Tuesday morning in June, holding my hand, the windows open to let in the smell of the oak trees he'd loved. His last words were, "Family isn't blood, Thomas. It's who shows up when it matters." 3 days later, we buried him next to my mother. The funeral was packed. Business associates, employees, friends spanning 4 decades. Marcus wasn't allowed to attend. Prison regulations. Catherine sent a letter from her facility. I burned it without reading. But Ethan was there, 6-year-old Ethan holding my hand, asking questions about heaven in the soft voice children use when they're trying to understand death. Marcus had signed over parental rights from prison, couldn't care for a child from behind bars, couldn't afford a custody battle, couldn't face his son knowing what he'd done. So Ethan was mine now. Legally, officially. Uncle Thomas had become something closer to Dad. "Is Grandpa Charles with Grandma now?" Ethan asked as we stood by the grave. "Yeah, buddy, they're together." "And are you my dad now?" I knelt down, eye level with him. "I'm your Uncle Thomas, but I'll always be here for you. Always. We protect family, Ethan. and your family. Even though my real daddy did bad things, you're not responsible for your father's choices. You're just responsible for your own. And you're a good kid with a good heart. That's what matters. He hugged me, small and fierce. Over his shoulder, I saw the gathering of people who'd become my real family. Dr. Foster and his wife Sarah, Raymond Cole and his teenage kids, Jennifer Hayes, Robert Chen and his son David, Maria, who'd worked for the Sullivans for 40 years and stayed loyal through everything. These people who'd chosen to stand beside me when blood relatives had tried to destroy me, they were my family now. 18 months later, Sunday dinners had become tradition. Every week, the estate filled with voices and laughter, the kind of sound the old house had been missing for years. Dr. Foster and Sarah brought wine and stories about their daughter's wedding planning. Raymond's kids played soccer in the backyard with Ethan. Jennifer brought her partner and homemade bread. Robert Chen and his son David always arrived early to help Maria in the kitchen, though mostly they just got in her way and made her laugh. "You know what your father would say if he saw this?" Maria said, wiping her eyes as she watched the chaos from the kitchen window. "He'd say you finally figured out what he spent 40 years building. A legacy of people who matter." I set the table, 12 places, mismatched chairs I'd collected from antique stores, fresh flowers Ethan had picked from the garden that morning. The Sullivan family crest was still engraved on the good china, but it meant something different now. Not blood, not obligation, just belonging. "Uncle Thomas?" David appeared in the doorway. He was 19 now, studying engineering at MIT, home for fall break. "Can I help?" "Actually, yeah, come here for a second." I reached into my pocket, pulled out the Sullivan family crest ring, the heavy gold band with the garnet stone, engraved with Latin my grandfather had chosen, Fidelis usque ad mortem, faithful unto death. Marcus had wanted this ring his whole life, had stared at it during the trial, had asked for it in his first letter from prison, a letter I'd ignored. "David," I said slowly, "this ring has been in the Sullivan family for 3 generations. My grandfather gave it to my father. My father gave it to me when I turned 21. It's supposed to represent family, loyalty, legacy." David looked at it, then at me. "Uncle Thomas, I can't... You've been more of a brother to me in 2 years than Marcus was in 38. I held out the ring. "Family isn't who you're born to. It's who shows up, who stands beside you when everything falls apart, who chooses you again and again, even when it's hard. You've done that. You and your dad both. This ring represents family, and you're my family." His eyes filled. "I don't know what to say." "Say you'll take it. Say you'll pass it on someday to someone who understands what it really means." He slipped it on his finger. It fit perfectly. And something in my chest, something that had been broken for 5 years, finally settled into place. Dinner was loud and chaotic and perfect. We told stories, argued about politics, laughed until our sides hurt. Ethan showed everyone his latest drawing. This one of all of us around the table, labeled "My Family" in his still shaky handwriting. He'd misspelled it again, but he'd gotten it exactly right. After dessert, after the dishes were cleared and the guests started saying goodbyes, I found Ethan in his room, the bedroom that had been mine as a child, now filled with his books and toys and the life we were building together. "Ready for bed, bud? Can you read to me?" I picked up the book on his nightstand, where the wild things are, and settled into the chair beside his bed. We'd read this one 100 times. He had the words memorized, but he liked the ritual, the routine, the safety of knowing what came next. Halfway through, he interrupted. "Uncle Thomas, my teacher asked me to draw my family tree for school." I paused. "Yeah?" "I don't know what to draw, because my daddy's in jail, and my mom lives far away, and you're my uncle, but you're also kind of my dad now, and Grandpa Charles died, and..." He twisted the blanket in his hands. "I don't know what family means anymore." I set the book down, pulled him close. Family means the people who show up, Ethan. The people who sit at our Sunday dinners. The people who teach you soccer and make you laugh and help with homework and tuck you in at night. Your teacher wants a family tree? Draw all of us. Dr. Foster, Sarah, Raymond, Jennifer, David, Maria, me? Draw the people who choose you. But that's not how family trees work. Says who? He thought about it, then smiled, the gap-toothed smile that reminded me painfully of Marcus at that age before everything went wrong. Okay, I'll draw the biggest tree ever. That's my boy. Uncle Thomas? His voice was small now, sleepy. You're my real dad now, right? My throat closed. I'm your Uncle Thomas, but I'll always be here for you. Always. We protect family and your family. Even though my daddy did bad things. Your daddy made bad choices, but you're not responsible for his choices. You're just responsible for your own. And you're a good kid with a good heart. I wrote him a letter in jail. He said he's sorry. He said he was a bad man, but he still loves me. I closed my eyes. Even from prison, even after everything, Marcus still had the power to hurt people. But Ethan deserved the truth. Your daddy does love you. He just made terrible choices that hurt a lot of people. And sometimes love isn't enough to fix what's broken. But you have so many people here who love you the right way, who show up, who choose you every single day. Like you. Yeah, like me. He fell asleep minutes later, curled under his comforter, clutching the stuffed bear Maria had given him for his 7th birthday. I sat there watching him breathe, this child who'd been caught in the crossfire of his father's betrayal, who'd lost so much, who still somehow believed the world could be good. Downstairs, I heard the last guests leaving, Maria locking up, the house settling into its nighttime quiet. I stood, turned off Ethan's light, and paused in the doorway. On the wall across from his bed hung his latest drawing, the one of all of us, our chosen family, imperfect, messy, beautiful. Family isn't who you're born to, it's who shows up when everything falls apart. Tell me about your found family in the comments. Who's the person who chose you when blood relatives didn't? Let's celebrate them. And if this story resonated with you, share it with someone who needs to hear that they're not alone. I walked downstairs to my father's study, my study now. The torn photo of Marcus and me was still in the desk drawer. I'd kept it as a reminder, not of what I'd lost, but of what I'd learned. Blood doesn't make family, loyalty does. And I finally had a family I could trust.